Welcome back to another episode of the MX Endurance Podcast, where we look at everything that's been happening in the world of endurance sports. My name is Tim Ford, and I'm joined by my good friend, my UK correspondent, the sexiest voice in triathlon, the penultimate legend. What's the other thing that I call you? Something?
Many.
The sexy shepherdess, James Bale.
A list of many things. How are you, mate? You look like you're sitting in front of a five-a-side goal. Where are you?
I'm in the remote studio. I'm on site. I'm our European correspondent this week. I've, as we said last week, I've ducked over to Norway. I'm currently sitting in an unheated, partially demolished wing of a house because the Wi-Fi didn't reach down to where I'm staying. So things are a little. I mean, I could show the camera and people wouldn't like what they're seeing, but these are the lengths, James, that I go to make sure that our rabid fan base never misses a week without knowing exactly what's happening in triathlon. This is what I'm selfless, James. I deserve I should be winning some sort of award this week, I think, because of the sacrifices I make to make sure that our audience gets the content they deserve, James. But how are you, mate?
It's the extension cable that really made my morning, mate, if I'm honest. The extension cable running across the to your laptop. Yeah, I'm well. I'm in the same place I normally am. It makes a change. Normally, I'm the one who's just popping up in different places and like, surprise, I'm in Spain, and surprise, I'm in France. But you're the roving one. Then I'm good, man. I'm still recovering from a broken ankle. Still can't run. Started swimming a little bit just to keep myself ticking over. But I'm quite proud of myself, man. This 7 weeks of broken ankle injury broken ankle injury that I've had. I managed to drop 3 kilograms in that time. So no exercise, but just do what you can, chip away. How are you?
I understand why you talk about the weather so much, mate, because it is occupying so much of my headspace the last week because it is so fucking freezing here. It is miserable. I hate it. I hate winter so much, and I'm so unhappy that I've had to fly up here. I was telling you before we hit record, I've been trying to do a bit of running, and there's just fucking ice everywhere, and it's an absolute nightmare because I'm like Bambi on the ice, where I'm just trying to it's so embarrassing because I'm just walking because I'm obviously not going to run on the ice, and I'm so careful because I'm scared of falling over and like breaking my elbow. And then there's just kids who just walk past like it's not even a thing. They must be looking at this guy going, this guy is like 1,000 years old. Look at him walking like an old frail man, like so scared on the ice.
See,
and that's me.
When the weather changes, it is quite a topic. I notice it now because you've pointed it out to me so many times. I notice when I see somebody and have a quick exchange, when I drop someone somewhere and I'm like, oh, how you doing? All we say is, yeah, weather's grim, isn't it? Yeah, weather's grim. See you later. Have a good one. It's just like a greeting.
The other one that got me was it on Sunday morning, a morning, and I got up early. I was like, oh, I'll just go grab a coffee. And I'm just driving around and nothing opens until like 10 o'clock on a Sunday. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
Have I traveled back 50 years in time? Like it's 2022. The man needs his coffee. The man needs his cafe latte with soy milk.
There's no getting coffee before 10 o'clock on a Sunday, mate, in Europe.
I've realised this.
Good Lord.
Ridiculous.
I mean, you're lucky you can get one at all. If you were in France, they'd just be like Sunday. That's not a day you buy things.
It is similar, yeah. We offered to cook dinner for our friends, and we are like, "Oh, hang on, the supermarkets are closed." Oh, this is interesting.
Yeah,
it's funny because I lived here 10 years ago, and mate, nothing's changed. Like all this stuff that it annoyed me back then, and it annoys me now.
Oh, mate, my parents used to live in Brittany, and whenever I used to go over there, it took me a few days to get into the mindset of how to live in Brittany because I'd be like, oh, I'll pop out for lunch, and forgetting that lunch is a 2-hour window between 12 and 2, and if you miss that window, there's no lunch available. And whereas in the UK, you can just pop into any pub, anytime, anywhere, and get some lunch. But no, you have to structure your life around these European countries, mate.
Europe, it's great.
Yeah,
you'll also notice for our video listeners, watchers, whatever, the sun is creepingly getting closer. I'm sitting in front of a window, and I can just tell at some point that sun is going to start blinding me. So we may have to reposition ourselves, and you'll see the delightful boxes behind me. So I apologize; it is not the visual feast that I'm normally recording in front of. What is good though is my new speed concept is being built as we speak. So next week when we record, there should be a very pretty new bike sitting behind me, which I'm very excited about. So that's something.
There you go.
But James Bale, before that, or after that, or now, this podcast is the official podcast of MX Endurance, the world's premier endurance sports community, created by 4-time world champion Chris McCormack. James, every week I ask you what's something you like about MX Endurance. However, we both decided that was a bit inappropriate this week, considering the world seems to be falling to pieces. We have the horrible events that are happening in Ukraine at the moment. We have the terrible floods that are happening in Australia. We have COVID going absolutely crazy in New Zealand. It feels like a bit of a dumpster fire at the moment, mate. So we thought instead of instead of giving the little plug like we do normally do at the start, we wanted to take a moment to say that we are absolutely appalled to see what's happening in Ukraine, and our thoughts and prayers and everything you want go out to anybody who's been impacted by this. It's horrific to see. It was quite scary for me flying to Europe with the news happening while I was flying, seeing like what am I flying towards? And the fact is, it's 2022, and I thought this sort of thing was behind us, James. So it's very upsetting and horrific to see what's going on, and not just here, but also, like I said, in Australia. I know a lot of people have been impacted by these floods, and there's been a lot of jokes coming out, but I know there's been like people are dying, people are losing their houses. These once in a lifetime floods seem to be happening more and more frequently. I think I saw something said that this is the third once in a century flood we've had this decade. So things aren't good at the moment, mate, and it's worth us taking a moment to acknowledge that and say that, yeah, our thoughts are out to everybody who's doing it tough at the moment.
Yeah, without question. It's a it's a worrying time in the world at the moment. It's hard to go through the day without constantly checking the news and seeing what's happening. So our thoughts as a podcast and as a triathlon community obviously reach out to anyone that's affected by the conflict in Ukraine, the floods in Australia, and anybody in the world who's still being affected by COVID. I mean, it's just been rough the last few years, and it seems to be not abating. So hopefully there is a reasonable response to the Ukraine conflict at some point and a resolution. But at the moment, it's just all we can do is send our best.
Exactly right. And guess what, guys? We're going to be talking a lot about this week because that is the majority of the news. And we're going to get right into it now. Again, normally I have the iPad set up, but I'm holding it this week because I'm not in my usual studio. We're going to start with the statement from Super League Triathlon. This came out, and there's a fair bit to unpack with this one, James, apart from just the article, the statement, because there's some things I want to talk about, some triathlon reporting stuff I'd like to bring up. Super League Triathlon. Since the start of the conflict in Ukraine, we at Super League Triathlon have been asked many questions because one of our co-founders, Leonid Bogulavsky, has dual Russian and Canadian citizenship. Now is the time to set the record straight. Leonid is one of 4 shareholders in Super League Triathlon's holding company, and as a co-founder, he has been the driving force behind not only our development, but also that of the sport which he loves. Leonid has also issued his own statement today, which we reproduce here. He says, seeing what is happening in Ukraine, I cannot remain silent. I feel deeply about this catastrophic and unjustified war. I believe that invention and entrepreneurship should be used to build a new, better world, one with more joy and less suffering. That is why I have devoted more than 20 years of my life to supporting innovation globally. I stand for peace, call for an immediate halt to the war in Ukraine, and hope that we can begin rebuilding a safe, peaceful, and interconnected world as soon as possible. As for Leonid's background, he moved from Russia to Canada as a young man to work as a university professor, and it was from here that he started an investment career that has turned into a global portfolio of successful businesses with offices in New York, London, Bangalore, and Singapore. To be clear, neither Leonid nor any of his businesses have been subject to sanctions anywhere in the world. Leonid has no political ties to Russia and is a self-made man. The current discussions in triathlon media on his position are purely because he holds dual Russian and Canadian citizenship and is a successful individual. James, that's one thing that I wanted to talk about. And the reason I think it's important is because I saw an article. I've actually had a few people send me this article and reference the fact that World Triathlon, which we're going to get to, have also put out the statement that they're no longer going to work with Russia, but that they are continuing to work with Super League because of Leonid. And I thought that was a pretty ordinary article to read from a website that I think does pretty good news. We did sort of touch on something they did a few weeks ago, but that one was like, it almost felt like a bridge too far for me. And I'm like, okay, this is starting to get a little bit ridiculous. But before we get to that, James, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that Super League have put out this statement quite as quickly as they have. Because global politics and political interconnections between Russian oligarchs and conflicts happening in the world is not something that you or I were particularly prepared to be talking about on a triathlon podcast. So people have to listen to this with that in mind, because as much attention as me and Tim pay to the world, we are not experts on global politics. We're not experts on Russian oligarchs. We're not experts on the dissolution of the Soviet Union and where money may or may not have come from. So it's good that they put this statement out, and I'm very pleased that they've responded in the way that they have. And I'm very pleased that Leonid, whether he wrote the statement or not, whether it was written for him and he signed it off, I'm very pleased to see that his stance is, I stand for peace and an immediate halt to the war in Ukraine. That is a positive and proactive statement to put out there. And that's probably about as far as my thoughts on it go, because I'm not qualified or in a position to make any assumptions or justifications for where people's ability to make lots of money may or may not have come from at the end of the Soviet Union when Gorbachev
Mm,
did what he did.
mm. Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, one of the things I think if and look, I think what a lot of these organizations are doing, I think what the IOC came out, what FIFA and everybody are talking about doing, I like. I think it's a reasonable response. But I also think that you at some point need to go, well, if we want to really get into it, you're probably going to struggle to find many organizations in the world that don't have some sort of connection to somebody from Russia in some form or another. And I think that's why they need to sort of, yeah, I mean, there's no perfect solution and there's not a one size fits all sort of thing. And yeah, I think because one of the founders of an organization is from Russia doesn't mean that they should face the same sanctions as, you know, the actual bodies within that country, I guess, is what I'm sort of trying to
Yeah,
say.
I
And
mean, especially if he's come out against the war, that for me is the key. Is the
yep,
key.
I agree.
Just putting that statement out there, because I think there are probably lots within Russia who would be scared to say that.
I also think it's worth noting that Leonid is an avid triathlete too. And again, like I've met him like twice. I have absolutely no connection to Super League. I'm just a fan. But like he's raced Kona. He's qualified for St George. I think like he loves the sport.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's not like he's just some guy who's like just throwing his money in for nefarious reasons. He's doing it because he loves triathlon. So
yeah, yeah.
um,
I've met and interviewed Leonid several times. Um, I've sat and had a beer with him, and he is a genuine triathlon fan, and his desire to improve, to be part of the sport, comes from a place of being an age grouper and wanting to grow the sport and wanting to make it more exciting. So it's not, like you say, from a outside looking in perspective, it's not, in my mind, like a faceless investor looking to make a buck out of a sport. But again, caveated to the hilt, mate.
well, guess what, guys? If you like statements about Ukraine and Russia, you're in for a treat this week because I swear to God, that's like half of what we're going to talk about this week. Because the next one, you've actually put a summary in here, James, from Tri 24/7 by Ollie Green, and that's that Russian and Belarusian athletes are banned by World Triathlon and Ironman.
Yeah, I've kind of,
It says,
I've kind of added to this summary. So it's their summary essentially, but there are bits in it that I've added, and just to make one big, so we weren't just repeating the same stuff over and over again. So
why don't you take the lead on it there, mate? So I don't read something that you've said as if gospel. Why don't we? Again, it gives me a bit of a break too. I can.
yeah, World Triathlon have announced that Russian and Belarusian athletes or officials will not be allowed to participate in all international competitions or official events. Condemning Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine, the international governing body for triathlon labelled it as a grave international crisis, which breaches the Olympic truce. They said, and quote, World Triathlon stands in absolute solidarity with the Ukrainian triathlon family and the entire country at this time of grave international crisis. World Triathlon will work with Ironman and Challenge in order for them to follow these recommendations as well. End quote. Russian events have been cancelled all over the world. Ironman 70.3 all over the world, all over Russia. Ironman 70.3 St. Petersburg on July 17th and Challenge Moscow on July 26th have both been cancelled. Ironman have put out a statement, and that statement is as follows. Now, this is going to be reading verbatim for some time, so bear with me. The Ironman Group has issued a statement of solidarity with Ukraine and outlined the status of its events in the region and banned the participation of Russian and Belarusian professional athletes. The Ironman Group stands in solidarity with the people of Ukraine, our athletes and their community, and condemns the actions dictated by Russian leadership during the deeply troubling international crisis. The 2022 Ironman 70.3 St. Petersburg Triathlon, scheduled to take place on July 17th, will be cancelled and registered athletes will receive further email communication. In line with the recommendation by the International Olympic Committee and World Triathlon regarding the participation of Russian and Belarusian athletes in international competition, the Ironman Group, effective immediately, will disallow participation of Russian and Belarusian athletes in the 2022 Ironman 70.3 World Championships in St. George, Utah, and our two Ironman World Championships events taking place in St. George, Utah, and Kona, Hawaii. Furthermore, all Russian and Belarusian professional athletes will be ineligible to race at any 2022 Ironman and Ironman 70.3 triathlon events, including this weekend's Ironman 70.3 Dubai Triathlon. No age group participants will be allowed to compete under the Russian or Belarusian flag at any Ironman or Ironman 70.3 event in 2022. While we recognise the difficult situation created for Russian and Belarusian athletes by these steps, we believe these are necessary to protect the integrity of our events. Additionally, we understand that the current situation will be extremely challenging and worrying for athletes residing in Ukraine and compete in any 2022 Ironman or 70.3 events, and we are offering our assistance for those athletes. Ukrainian athletes registered for an Ironman or Ironman 70.3 triathlon will receive further communication with options available to them. Now, Challenged Family also issued a statement. This is much shorter, so I'll read this one just following on. Challenged Family condemns the actions of the Russian government and the violence and suffering they are inflicting on the people of Ukraine. It is, of course, untenable to organise an international sporting event in Russia in the current circumstances. Our local team in Moscow is as against the invasion as we are, and we will continue to support them as part of our family. We look forward to a time when hostilities cease and peace returns for everyone. So they've cancelled their event in Russia as well. So let's talk about Ironman and Challenge and their response first, and then there's a little bit more about that in that article to follow. What are your thoughts, Mr. Ford?
Yeah, I like it. Again, I think it's a really good response. I saw there's been a lot of negativity online around this, and I've seen that sort of narrative that it's hypocritical and things like that. But one of the things that I think is worth identifying, especially in that Ironman statement, to clarify, because I think people hear that and they go, "What you're saying that no Russian athletes are allowed to compete anywhere?" It's like that's not what they're saying. They're saying you can't compete under the flag of Russia or Belarus. And I'm guessing, again, I'm not an expert. I would assume that means that people who are of Russian or Belarusian citizenship can still enter Ironman and Ironman 70.3 events. They just can't select the country they represent as Russia or Belarus, is what I would say, because I saw a lot of people saying it's unfair to punish the people of the country for the actions of their leadership, even if they don't agree, which I think is a fair enough statement to make. So I think it's worth note again. Actually, I said this and I might be completely wrong, but I would assume that it means that they can still race if they want to. You know, for expats or people who don't live in the country, they just can't race under that flag. What do you think? Do you think that sounds right?
Yeah, I mean, reading into it is that could possibly be the. I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether you can, as a if you were a Russian citizen, whether they would allow you to enter under, just click Britain or something. I don't know.
Because you can list with no country. I think you can choose no country.
Yeah, I don't know whether they're doing it on that selection or whether they're doing it on the sort of, I really don't know. I assume the way you've read it, I assume that's the case, but it may be. I mean, like you say, you don't want to.
It'd be impossible to police, wouldn't it? It would actually be impossible for them to police.
It would be. I think banning people from taking part in sport that is good for them and good for the community is a bad thing. I think perhaps, like you say, removing the Russian Association at the moment to apply pressure is probably a good thing.
That didn't work at the Olympics, did it?
No, well, the Olympics is a very specific gravy train, isn't it? And that just keeps on rolling. So I think these statements are very strong. I think it was good that they came out as they did. It's good that a lot of sporting bodies are taking a similar approach, and hopefully the uniting of international pressure, even across sporting boundaries, will do something to try and stifle the atrocities that's currently taking place.
The only thing about it that I find a bit like, I don't even know what the word is. It's like, one of the things we've spoken a lot about in previous episodes of this podcast is doping violations that we keep reporting. And there seems to be a bit of a thread that happens, that they all seem to be coming from a certain country, which is now having further sanctions placed against it.
Yeah.
And like that, I don't know, mate. Like the fact that these things keep coming and keep happening, do they care?
I don't know.
Is it going to have any impact? They clearly just don't seem to care about the rules a lot of the time.
I think I mean, if you want, let's go into global politics a little bit, shall we?
Keep it with a triathlon skewer.
Yeah.
Come
I
on.
think a lot of the actions of the Russian government in terms of the sporting world, hosting the World Cup, looking to win as many medals as possible at the Olympics, and then also starting little wars on its border, come at the desire for their leader to maintain popularity with the population. You know, when they do well at a sporting event, when they hold a sporting event, his popularity goes up. When they invade a country during wartime, his popularity goes up internally. So I think everything can be traced back to looking to consolidate and hold on to power, because I think as soon as he's out of power, he's fucked. So so it comes down to that, and that at all costs. The doping thing, the Icarus film. Looking at how they cheated the Olympics. It's less of a giving a shit globally what everyone thinks, and more a, as long as my population sees success and I can control what they see and hear, then that's all I care about. And
Mhm.
that's the way I see it. So I think the rest of the world, it's well and good for the rest of us to go, what? How can this keep happening? It's so obvious. Stop it. Whereas in reality, Russian media and information is very, very controlled internally, and
Yep.
it's not about us. It's not about us. It's about them and him maintaining power. So you know, that's the way I see it, bro.
And on the point, and I know I was saying that I think that they're not trying to punish the people, but I suppose the reason that they would be trying to, in some way as well, would be they're trying to make him unpopular. So these inconveniences for everyday people within that country, like not being able to go and do the race they want, or not being able to go to Kona or whatever, they're suddenly going to be going, bloody hell, mate! Like, stop it, stop impacting on. I'm not shooting bombs at Ukraine, and I'm not able to go and do my 70.3 race or whatever. So like those sort of inconveniences will make it like
Yeah, I mean,
I,
triathlon is the impact triathlon will have is probably an ink spot. Um, but it is, every little helps, I suppose. And like you say, there may be,
you can see that I'm trying to keep it travel
yeah,
related.
yeah.
And you're going like
Looking,
big picture.
looking. I mean, I think the sanctions that are being imposed across the world by all organisations will eventually, the Russian population are going to turn around and go, for fuck's sake. You've got internet companies saying they're not going to be supplying Russia. You've got um, all flights banned from Russia to the rest of the world. All these things. It all adds up. So we'll
Well,
see,
so
won't we?
for example, on that, so I'm in Norway. Guess what? I'm in Norway at the moment, and they've got a World Cup skiing event on this weekend, and they've just announced that they're banning Russian athletes from competing. They've got to leave the country, but they've also banned all flights from Norway to Russia. So apparently, the only options they have are to go via Dubai. So Norway, Dubai, Dubai, Russia, or Norway, Turkey, Turkey, Russia. They're the only ways that they can get back to their own country, which shares a border with Norway.
Yeah.
It's like, man,
It's a
it's
balance,
wild.
isn't it? It's a balance, because ultimately you want to respond to these things internationally and trying, but someone who is acting like a crazy person, how much more and more and more isolated does that crazy person have to become before something really terrible happens? Really, really terrible. What's happening now is terrible.
Yeah, it's
Everything's
awful.
terrible. It could get more terrible. There is lots more terrible that could happen. Anyway,
That's the
triathlon.
scariest part, I think. Triathlon. Let's move on to some more triathlon stuff, man. I feel like we've spent enough time talking about this. I'm sure people are like, enough. We get it. We're sick of it. We doom scroll on social media. We know.
Yeah,
Stop.
yeah.
So let's try to turn to something else. And my bloody thing has just frozen. So give me 1 second. But that is that we have a new athlete who's turning her eye to triathlon. Now, give me. I'm clearly padding while I'm trying to get the article
Do you
back up.
want me to start reading this, Mr. Ford?
I've got it.
Oh, you
I got
got
this
it.
article from Sarah Wasner Flynn at triathlete.com, and that is that running phenomenon Mary Kane makes a move to triathlon. After setting national records as a high schooler and rising to running fame, the 25-year-old has now joined Paolo Sousa's triathlon squad and will race for her pro card in Claremont, Florida this weekend. Kane, who will launch her season this weekend at the Claremont Challenge, a draft legal race in Florida, is approaching this venture with a measured dose of humility, and reverence. And the 25-year-old running phenomenon wants to be sure that the world knows she's not quite ready to, set the world on fire. She said, "It would be a huge disservice for all the women who are already out there kicking butt for me to say, I can swim and run. I'm going to be really good at this. I have a lot to learn and far too much respect for athletes who have worked tirelessly in the sport for me to think I can just jump in and be the next best thing. On paper, she certainly checks the boxes of a superb triathlete. To start, she's a strong swimmer, thanks to a childhood and adolescence spent following the black line on a competitive team in her hometown of Bronxville, New York. She said, I could have probably gone D1 as a swimmer. She said, by seventh grade, it was becoming apparent, though, that I'd be a better runner. Indeed, Kane became the most successful teen runner that the country, or even the world for that matter, had seen. At 17, she became the youngest American athlete to ever represent the US at a track and field world championship, and later, the youngest to make a final in the same meet when she finished ninth in the 1500 meters. Her national high school records in the 800 meters, 159.51, 1000 meters, 235.80, 1500 meters, 404.62, 3000 meters, 858.48, and the 2 mile, 938.68, and 5000 meters, 15:45.56 still stand, as is her world junior record in the 1000 meters. After graduating from high school, Kane signed a sponsorship deal with Nike, foregoing her collegiate eligibility in exchange for racing professionally around the world. Her meteoric rise and resounding success as a young runner was later shrouded by scandal following her heartbreaking revelation that she had suffered emotional and physical abuse under coach Alberto Salazar, triggering a downward spiral of disordered eating and depression. In the years following, Kane moved from Portland to New York and continued to run while working as the community manager at Tracksmith, launched a not-for-profit, and started a professional running team. Now officially part of Sousa's squad, Kane says she is ready to re-enter the arena of professional athletics and accept the intense scrutiny that can come along with it. And after months of remaining reticent about her plans, finally publicizing her triathlon journey, she said is a monkey off her back. She said, at first I was holding back in sharing this thing I was falling in love with because I was scared of what other people who didn't know me were going to say. She said, I'm so excited to see where this will take me and to try and compete at the highest level possible for me. But honestly, I have no idea what that is going to be. Jimbo.
This is excellent. This is excellent. I'm really pleased to see triathlon, gaining such an athlete, especially after the sadness and sickening nature of the story with Alberto Salazar and the athletes that he impacted. It's great to see that everything she's achieving post that, and mate, those run times, eh? High school record running 800 meters in 159.51, 1000 meters in 235.80, and 1500 meters in 404.62. Yeah. All right.
It's not bad.
No, it's not too bad. Triathlon is a big, warm, opening, welcoming tent, mate. And I have a feeling that the humility that she's bringing to it with her unwillingness to say how well she's going to do or how well she may or may not do, I think that'll stand her in good stead to come in and have a good old crack.
I mean, it's not like America's ever really brought some like gun runners to triathlon. They've had a lot of success, is it? Like I can't think of anyone in the history of the sport who was a really good runner and then represented America and did well. Does anyone come to mind for you, mate? Like, does any
and may now be a runner again?
Maybe a runner again. Yeah. May have. Oh no, that's right. They did pick up that gold medal in Rio, didn't they?
Yeah.
Was it Gwen Jorgensen? The other thing that every time I see this stuff about the Alberto Salazar, or how'd you say it, Salazar or whatever,
I don't know his name.
Talk about, he sounds like a Bond villain. Like that name alone should be like setting off red herrings. And if you've read Harry Potter, that's bloody Salazar Slytherin, mate. He's the founder of Slytherin.
Have you seen the documentary on him?
Yeah, it's no good, mate.
It's no good.
It's absolutely no good.
It's no good.
And it took a moment because I saw the article and I was like, she looks really familiar, and I was like, oh, that's where I know her from. I'm like, oh.
But I think ultimately, mate, that may be where we recognise her from at this point, because me and you aren't running fans and we've seen that documentary. But I think she'll go on to do many, many more things, both in and outside of triathlon, which is how we should be recognising her for. So
100%. That's a really good point. That I think this is. I'm very excited about this. I get really excited when you see, people with huge potential coming across. And you're right. I think the fact that she's like, look, I'm not pretending that I'm going to come and automatically be good at this. I have work to do. But I think the fact that she's a very good runner and she's also got a strong swim background. It's probably setting her up for some good success because, as we've said about Lucy Charles a lot, with her attempt to go short, the bike is probably the easiest one to make those big improvements on. Like I think so. Yeah, it's exciting, mate. It's very, very exciting. So
there you go, onwards and upwards, and many, many more successes to come.
Just wish she was Australian, if I'm honest.
Wow.
What can you do?
What
You
can
can
you
see
do?
that sun's creeping. I keep trying to miss the sun, and it keeps following me.
You're sliding around the
shuffling.
corner, aren't you?
I'm eventually going to have the whole everything I'm trying to avoid having behind me is going to be behind me. This next one I put in just for you, James, because I know how much you love things like Everest dinner, novelty events, and stuff like that. And also from Sarah Wasner-Flynn at triathlete.com. And that is that Utah man sets the Guinness World Record for running a marathon in a carrot costume.
Is that a record? Is that a thing?
Let's find out. Allow me to elaborate. Jordan Maddox has an impressive athletic resume, which includes an Ironman finish and several marathons. But perhaps his greatest feat to date is running a 2:44 marathon in a carrot costume. The performance, which he lodged at the Rock and Roll Marathon in Phoenix in January, is now an official Guinness World Record for the fastest marathon while dressed as a vegetable.
So it's a vegetable. So it can be any vegetable. It's not a carrot. He hasn't whittled it down to carrot.
Yeah, unfortunately, the record for dressed as a fruit was 2:36, so he just didn't qualify for that one. And dressed as a legume is actually 2:27, so he was well and truly out of the running for that one. Maddox, who began the costumed capers to support a friend battling cancer and now runs for charity, also holds the unofficial record. The unofficial record for fastest fruit over 26.2 miles running a 2:40. I was joking, and it's actually correct. He ran a 2:41.27 while dressed like a banana.
Well done, mate.
You know, I a few years ago I was doing a half marathon, and I think I was second overall at this point, and I got passed by a bloke wearing a suit, like a proper 3-piece suit. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, no, you will not pass me, good sir. So I'm trying, and this guy dropped me like a bad habit. I ended up blowing up because I tried to go with this guy in a suit.
The annoying thing about people that wear silly costumes is normally they can do it because they're really good runners.
Yeah, it turned out that he was trying to break a record for the most number of sub 80-minute halves running in a suit or something, a 3-piece suit. I was like, the records are ridiculous.
Yeah, who decides these records? Because I mean,
Guinness, mate.
Yeah,
Guinness.
yeah, but like
it's a Guinness.
So there's dressed as a fruit. There's amount of marathons in a row dressed in a 3-piece suit under 80 minutes. I mean, that is very specific. It's like, could I just go out this morning and run a half marathon and set a record for the fastest half marathon, shouting wanker every 6 seconds?
But that's how you normally do it, mate. So I think you'd have to that's why you're referred to as the sexiest voice in triathlon, is the way that you enunciate wanker while you're running around the Dartmoor.
The Dartmoor.
No, I said that and was like, I hope that's actually a thing. So I don't know if it is. Yeah, I don't mind it. Again, it's good to have a little bit of levity considering how heavy the start of this episode was. But yes, like I said, mate, remember I think we did this a while ago when we were looking at the indoor records, and there isn't currently a 70.3 indoor record. And I was like, I'm going to go for this.
You should. You should do it. You're in Norway. Got fuck all else to do. It's too icy to go running. Get yourself a treadmill and an indoor bike and do an indoor half Ironman.
And an indoor pool. So I just got to get it because I don't have my bike with me.
Yeah.
Actually, don't have a time trial bike at the moment.
Surely you've got 50 grand you can splash on an indoor pool, can't you?
Yeah, easy, mate. I'll just dip into the back pocket and
get it done.
I mean, that's why we have.
Surely the podcast alone will pay for that.
Mate, exactly right. Those podcast memberships. So if you'd like to, head to mxendurance.com/podcast to help me get that indoor record. Enough silliness, James Bale. We have some things to cover. We have 2 incredibly exciting races coming up this weekend. I know you are absolutely chomping at the bit for both of them. Let's start in Dubai.
Do I need a violin?
No,
for you on this,
mate. You're leading this. You put this in the doc, so I'm going to let you. I'll provide the background music.
I thought you wanted a sad, because Tim Ford's not going to be there. A sad soundtrack.
You see, I was trying to avoid focusing on that, and I think it was actually out of my mind. And then you've just brought me back to reality, going, "Yes, that's right. Actually, I was meant to be there."
Ironman 70.3 Dubai 2022. Now, we've taken a lot of these preview notes from Try 24/7, John Levison. There's no live broadcast, upsettingly. So it's going to be a case of using the tracker app again to watch what's happening. Now, I thought we'd have a quick look at the previous winners of the race. Last year was Daniel Backgard and Daniela Reef. 2020 was Imogen Simmons and Bart Arnott's. 2019 was Adam Bowden and Holly Lawrence. And 2018 was Anne Haug and Alistair Brownlee. Those are the last 4 years worth of events. And This year, defending champion Daniela and Germany's Laura Philipp, second and third respectively in the PTO's world rankings at the end of 2021, are taking each other on, and they are probably the two favourites on the women's side. After taking some time away at the end of 2021, Daniela has been able to regain the form and aura which she saw dominate almost every time she raced since 2014.
The what?
I can't say that word. That word.
Aura?
Yeah,
The aura.
I can't say it. That word and cashew, I cannot pronounce.
What?
Has
What are you trying to? What?
cashew?
What's
the nut,
cash-
the
what's
small
cash-
nut.
Cashew. Bless you. You mean a cashew nut?
Has Laura continued the rapid rise to make her a true contender for victory at the World Championship level from 2022 onwards? A relatively late start to the sport. How far can she go? So on the women's side, mate, it's going to be a Daniela and Laura Philipp show. On the men's side, Daniel Backgard has several talented challengers trying to take him on. The Dane had an excellent 2021, including winning his matchup at the Collins Cup, bronze at the Ironman 70.3 World Championships, and closing out the season with a victory at Ironman 70.3 Lanzarote. Ranked 6th in the PTO standings, and with course knowledge and a victory 12 months ago, he'll start as hot favourite. Well, Kristian Blummenfelt may disagree. Kristian Blummenfelt, stronger than he was before the Olympics, apparently will happily take on that mantle, and for good reason. Olympic and world triathlon champion, well, you know the rest, probably the most talked about triathlete in the world right now. He will, of course, hope for far better than his 2019 experience, where cramps put him out of the race at the very early stages of the bike leg. So yeah, basically we've got Blummenfelt taking on Beckengard, but we've also got Belgian Martin van Riel, as you mentioned last week, in the mix as well. So it's going to be a very competitive race, mate, and it's a real shame that this early in the season, with a race this competitive, we haven't got any live streaming, because I would quite happily sit and watch this 70.3 shakeout, because I want to see Beckengard take on Blummenfelt. I have a feeling Daniel Beckengard is going to win.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm pleased for that. The prize money is 5 deep, and as
Who
first,
cares? It's garbage.
$2,500 for winning.
Fucking hell. It's depressing, isn't it?
It is. Wouldn't
One
even
of
buy
the
you a
things-
bike. Wouldn't even buy you a decent bike. That would it.
Not even, mate.
Do you know what I
I
mean?
really like that. So the PTO are really good at, sort of trying to build the hype a little bit about the head-to-heads that are coming up in races. And they did one this week, and I wanted to talk about it because it's got the Daniel Beckengard versus Kristian Blummenfelt. Daniel Beckengard currently ranks number 6 in the world compared to Kristian Blummenfelt ranked number 36 in the world. And it looks at the points they've gotten. On average, Daniel is a 99.22, whereas Kristian is an 83.15. And I'm like, that's an interesting statistic, isn't it? That you would probably consider Kristian to maybe be a little bit better than that. But no, I'm genuinely excited to see those two race. But you said it, Martin van Riel. He's the one that I'm really, really keen to see, because, again, what was Martin? Fourth in Tokyo? Like, everybody forgets who comes fourth. And yeah, Martin van Riel's an athlete that really, really excites me. I think seeing people like him do more middle distance racing is a really good thing.
Yeah.
And
he was second to Kristian at the WTCS Grand Final as well.
I'm actually thinking that could be him.
Interesting. So should we put a little wager on this? Something?
Yeah. Okay. What do you want to do?
I don't know. We're both going to be at the Collins Cup. So dinner after the Collins Cup.
Is it that they're going to win, or they're going to beat each other?
I think it's got to be the win, isn't it? Because if neither of them win, then what's the point?
There's Kristian. There's Kristian, mate. That's the problem. Is Kristian's Kristian.
Yeah, I think I genuinely don't want to get carried away on because what the Norwegians are trying to do, which I appreciate and I like, is create an aura around them of invincibility. And if Kristian's in it, what's the point? And I don't want that. I don't want to allow myself to get carried away on that, because I don't believe that's the case. I believe a race is a race and an athlete is an athlete. And I think I've got a lot of time for Daniel Beckengard as a contender, and I think he can win this.
I think the other thing to consider with somebody like Kristian is that when he does sometimes show weakness, maybe when he is a little bit cooked, or earlier in the year is last year. Again, I'm going off last year. We saw him have that great win to start with, but then by the time he was racing was it the Italian World Cup race where he finished 6th? Like, he did have that drop in form before picking it up again in time for Tokyo. He's just come off some incredible 6-week crazy training camp up in Sierra Nevada, at altitude. and his big, and you obviously know that his bigger goals are St George, are sub 7 and Kona and 70.3 watts. Like, is he going to be red hot for this race? Whereas somebody like Daniel and Martin, there's probably this, they're not focused on those. I mean, Daniel is, but somebody like Martin is 70.3 focused at the moment. So that's why I'm like, yeah, I really think Martin Van Riel could surprise a lot of people. I'm happy. I'll go Martin Van Riel. Martin Van Riel for the win. That's my pick.
Daniel Backgard for the win.
Okay. Do you think if Kristian wins, we could see a new world record?
No.
Okay. Interesting. I tend to agree with you. I think, I don't know. It's too hard. I wouldn't be, again, I wouldn't be surprised if it happened, but just considering the fact that he is focused so much on that iron distance stuff at the moment that he probably has lost a little bit of that top speed. There's a reason he's not racing WTCS this year.
Yeah, and it's when he was racing for the Bahrain race for that world record, that was a very specific, focused attempt to get that record in Bahrain. I don't believe he's going to Dubai with that focus or that intent, because he's got so much.
Who knows, mate?
Yeah, but he's got so much other stuff happening with the sub 7, sub 8, and various iron distance races coming up. I think it's very easy, like I said earlier, to get carried away on the hype train and be like, every time he races one, he's going to go faster. But in reality, taking that amount of time off a 70.3 distance it's not easy. Let
me put it another way. Do you think that, because I like what you're saying, I also don't want to buy into the every time they race they're going to win thing. I think it's not good as a fan. But do you think that if he goes to
or
Dubai
as a
and doesn't,
competitor of theirs,
that's 100%. But do you think if he loses this race, do you think that starts to damage that a little bit? Do you think that, because I think there is this element of they're invincible at the moment, and do you think that if he suddenly goes and finishes fourth or third,
it might damage the narrative that they're trying to construct, which is that we are different and we are above, because every time someone races us, we take them out. So because we're doing things differently, and we've cracked the code to an extent that other people haven't cracked the code. When the coach says, it's like it's going to be easy, Kona's going to be easy, or Kristian Blummenfelt says Kona's going to be easy, I can run that pace all day, every day. They say they've cracked the code deeper than anyone else has. If they start losing races, then maybe they haven't. So yeah, maybe it does damage it. But ultimately, I'm not buying into that myself. It doesn't damage it for me. I still think they're spectacular athletes. I still think that they can be a contender anywhere. I haven't bought into this. They've cracked the code and they're better than everyone else suddenly, and there's no point in competing against them. So it doesn't damage it for me.
Okay, then the next thing, I like to talk about this stuff. Do you think that knowing Kristian, he is incapable of doing anything but trying to win?
No.
Do you think then that he would be able to go into this? I guess what I'm getting at is, like, he's clearly not just going to see how he is. He's going there to win the race.
Yeah, totally. But that doesn't mean that he has fine-tuned himself for a record.
No, that's true. That's 100% true. Yeah.
It means going in to win it as best you can, to get the best out of yourself where you're at that moment, is different to targeting something for a world record attempt for months on end and going to try and crack that. You're still going to try and get the best out of yourself, but you might be at a different place.
Okay, then again, another hypothetical for you then is, let's say after everything we've just said, where we don't think that he is going there to crack a record, and he does.
Then yeah, I mean the Ura.
What does that do?
The Ura keeps building, doesn't it?
Do you think that would be a, like, people would just be do you think somebody like Lionel Sanders, who we haven't spoken about for a while, Lionel's been very quiet getting the work done, do you think that would be the sort of thing that could make a lot of pros out there start to question themselves? Like, do you think maybe Kristian is aware that if he goes out there and fucking destroys the field, suddenly everybody training for St George goes, oh shit?
Yeah, very possibly.
Like, is that maybe? And again, I'm completely speculating here, but maybe that's the play. Maybe the reason they've chosen a very fast race is to go and say, so people who are paying attention to Kristian for St George go, oh my God, he went 3:22. How the fuck am I going to beat this guy? Like, maybe that's a thing to consider. I don't know. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, it may be the case that this is a sort of a statement attempt to try and unsettle people before St George. And if that was the case, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm trying to say I haven't built into their hype, but it doesn't mean I don't enjoy it when I see the results take place. And I'm not I'm not a fan of theirs. I mean, if he goes out and has a
No, I don't.
cracking
Yeah,
race and smashes it to bits, I'll be like, banging, excellent. St George is going to be amazing. And yeah, it would unsettle his competitors somewhat. But I also think that we've got to be careful not to start underestimating athletes like Daniel Beckergaard or, you
Well,
know,
a good point about Daniel is that if you look at Christian's fastest 70.3s, guess who's always been there as well? And that's been Daniel Beckergaard.
yeah,
In both Bahrain races, Daniel was in the podium. I think he was second the year that Christian broke the world record. He was third the year Gustav was there.
yeah,
He went 3:29 on this course last year, and from people on the ground said it's probably one of the fastest runs they've ever seen in a half Ironman ever. And I think he took a wrong turn at one point. We talk about the battles that we want to see in triathlon, and the big one has been Frodo, Gustav, and Christian. But genuinely, Daniel racing those boys, both Christian and Gustav, is one of the most exciting prospects for me at the moment as a fan of middle distance racing. Like those, those are two names. This Christian Daniel race, I think, is like probably has the potential to be one of the best non-championship battles we see this year. This could be similar to the Sam Long, Lionel Sanders, St George race we saw last year. I think I'm surprised more people aren't excited by the prospect of these two racing each other. I think Daniel Beckergott is an incredibly underrated athlete, to be honest.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think a lot of people sort of just I don't know why, because I think Daniel is absolute fire and Christian is obviously absolute fire. And then yeah, chuck in a Martin Van Riel too, who is just you don't know what he could do, but he's very, very, very good athlete. It has all the potential of being an absolute cracker, and I wish it was being televised. When I read that before we hit record, I was actually like, "Fuck!" I was hoping to
yeah,
be able to watch this race, and it sucks, mate, because
yeah.
yeah,
I sent Daniel a message yesterday and just said, "Have a good one. Hope you give KB something to think about." And he said, "Thanks, boss. I'll give it a solid push with a flame emoji."
the thing I don't want to neglect is that women's race, and we've gone through it a little bit recently, but I genuinely am curious to see that race again between Daniela Ryf and Laura Phillip, because again, those two are incredibly close on the rankings, and Laura Phillips had an incredible year last year. And there's so many question marks hanging over Daniela Ree's head at the moment. Where's she at? What's her fitness like? She's still got the motivation. Does she still want to do it? I'm expecting to see a good indicator of that at this race. If she comes out and is woeful, maybe it is the start of the end. I don't know. Maybe she will start to transition to purely Ironman racing, or maybe she'll walk away. Whereas if she comes out and destroys this race like she has in the past, again, that's a statement, and that'll change a lot of people's discussions around that St George race, because I think a lot of people have her written off at the moment.
Totally.
So if she comes out and does what she does best, suddenly that discussion changes, and there'd be a lot of pro athletes out there I think who would suddenly be going, okay, this is going to be different to how I expected, because I feel like Daniela isn't really part of the conversation at the moment for
Yeah,
some
yeah, it's
reason.
been so long. It's been so long since she has been part of the conversation. People feel like it's shifted onto Lucy Charles Barkley, and there are other athletes orbiting Lucy Charles that have a crack at that. And yeah, like you say, it totally has. The narrative is, oh, well, a sport's got a short memory, and it's kind of, oh, well, Daniela's done. But if she comes out and lays down a real marker for St George, then suddenly St George on the women's side gets even more exciting than it already is.
Exactly. That's sort of what I'm hoping for. Is I really because I think Daniela is arguably the greatest long course athlete of all time. She's absolutely in the top three for me, possibly top two. And I want to see that St George race. Like again, I want the battle. I want to see Lucy and Daniela have a battle. I want to see Kat Matthews up there. Like I want to see them all go at each other. That race where Kat nearly ran Daniela down last year in Tulsa was one of the more exciting things that happened in long course women's racing last year. And I want to see that happen again in St George. Like I want that drama. And yeah, I guess I also just want to see Daniela back loving it, mate, because again, she's one of my favorite athletes. And so yeah, I guess I'm gonna put Daniela down for the win. I think she's gonna come and destroy it. That's my gut. Again, big shock Tim Ford picking Daniela Ryf when she races. Hasn't worked out so well for me in recent years, but hopefully it's back to being a successful pick.
Yeah, bang on, bang on.
What's the other race, mate? What's the other thing that's happened in this weekend?
Do I have to care? Do I have to care?
Before we talk about it, a genuine, not lying thing happened this week where I think, where did I see it? Somebody, Emma Pallant Brown posted that she's off to America for this couples championship. And I thought, that's not this weekend. That's in like the middle of the year. And I went, oh no, it's this weekend. And I had completely forgotten about it. James Bale, I know you're excited about it, mate. Tell me all about the couples championship.
Oh, fuck off triathlon. The couples champ. This is I took this summary from Try 24/7. Jonathan Turner. The couples championship offers the biggest triathlon prize so far in 2022 when it takes place on early March the 6th. There will be financial windfall of $100,000 for the winning couple at a race which is backed by Waterfall Bank in Florida, and each couple will earn an appearance fee of $10,000. The event is scheduled to start at 7 o'clock local time Eastern on Sunday, March the 6th, 2022. If you're in the UK, that is 1300 hour. No, that is noon GMT or 1 o'clock in the afternoon Central European time. It'll take place at Fort De Soto Park in Tierra Verde, Florida. And you can watch the race on a live stream. The Couples Championship we stream live per organisers, and the plan is that the stream will be a pay-per-view production. Organisers have been advertising an early bird discount price of $7.99 US or £7.99 to watch the race on Facebook Live, but that ended when February turned over to March. The price is now $9.99 US or £9.99, which means it's more expensive in the UK. As per the official website, US long distance star Heather Jackson and Greg Bennett will be on hand to provide commentary for the race broadcast. The format is as follows. Partner 1 does a 0.25 mile swim, a 10-mile bike, and a 3.1 mile run. Partner 2 does a 0.25 mile swim, a 10-mile bike, and a 3.1 mile run. As for those who are eligible to take part in the event, this was the official designation provided by race organisers on their official website. To qualify, the pro athletes must be in a relationship for 6 months or longer. Each couple will be officially announced when their invitation is delivered to them. There are some big names from pro triathlon taking part, but the major news as we count down is that the likely pre-race favourites Vince Louis and Taylor Spivey will not confirm starters, and the starters are as follows: Josh Amberger, Ashley Gentle, Jess Broderick, Jason West, J.R. Brown and Emma Pallant-Brown, Miranda Carfrey, Tim O'Donnell. There's loads of them. I can't be bothered to read them all.
I'll do it. I'll go through it, mate. Allow me. Marjolaine Pierre and Clement Mignon, Paula Finlay, Eric Lagerstrom, Kirsten Casper and Matt Sharp, Samantha Kingsford and Sam Osborne, Rachel Klammer and Richard Murray, Andre Lopez and Rachel Olsen, Victoria Lopez and Daniel Pimentel, Jeannie Metzler and Justin Metzler, Seth Ryder and Roxana Slupek, and Aaron Royal and Non Stanford.
So they're taking applications for next year, and like I said, there's lots of money on the line, and there's a charity angle. So it was $10,000 would be donated for each couple that beats the charity trio of Brooke Bennett, Phil Gaiman, and Gwen Jorgensen. So, mate, I'll let you start. I've done the administerial logistics side of it. What are your thoughts on the couples championship, Mr. Ford?
I couldn't give a shit about this race, to be honest, mate. I don't know whether that I saw a lot. I know a lot of people are quite excited about it, and I think that's excellent. Excellent. I shouldn't sit here and say I don't care. Now I'm critical of it because I love anything that tries to push the sport forward. But this is a concept doesn't interest me just because if they I'm all for the relay thing. I'm all for having people partner up and make teams, but the fact that it's based around their relationship to me is just irrelevant and boring. I think I'm not interested in.
It's fucking boring. Triathlon. Sometimes, we're a pro sport, man. We're a pro sport with athletes at the top of their game. And then it does itself no favors by making it look like one big happy family that just everyone's just mates and they don't race each other. It's a pro sport. And also the aspect of this, what if you're a same-sex couple in triathlon? Would that be allowed? Would you be allowed to race? What if you're two women or two men? I feel I just don't like this, man. It's regressive. It's just
what it reminds me of a little bit. So I have been a podcaster for many years, and I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and I often get this feeling where the podcasts become more and more obscure as there are more and more podcasts. So it's like, oh, okay, well, this podcast is about, I don't know what's something. Okay, a podcast I listened to recently spun off and started to make a podcast about make-believe movies that exist in movies. And I was like, that is incredibly niche.
Yeah, you've got niche.
And it feels to me now like triathlon is started. Okay, so we've done the regular triathlon. We've tried mixing things up with the changing the orders, and we've got the Super League stuff happening over there. Okay, we've got the Collins Cup doing their thing. What's our like? How can we do it's triathlon but done differently? I know, couples. And I mean,
Oh,
I look at that start list, to be honest, mate, and I can probably I would be interested in watching 3, maybe
oh,
4 of those couples actually race, and the
oh.
rest I'm like, I don't care.
Well, if you're not in a couple, I mean, I say same-sex couples, but you're not in a couple. You can't. What the fuck is this? It's an assumption that there's going to be enough couple. I mean, there are enough couples in triathlon, but it's madness, and it just pickles me, and I just have no interest in it. And you want to charge me? You want to charge me £9.99 to not give a
For a
shit,
sprint race.
to not give
For
a shit about a
basically
tiny little race? Who?
I
No,
would pay
well,
I would pay that money to watch Dubai. I would happily. If they
yeah,
wanted to
same.
make me pay $10 to watch Dubai, I would 100% watch it.
Oh yeah,
I
mate,
I
I
am
reckon we've been starved of live sport for a while because it's March. I reckon I'd pay 15 quid to watch Dubai this weekend if I could. If it was a good production, I'd be like, yeah, all right, I'll watch that. I want to see Backgard and Reef and Chris Blummenfelt. I don't want to see some wacky races where everyone's having a good old jolly time and no one's taking it seriously because we're all just couples having fun. Fuck off.
do you where's the whiteboard that exists where they're like, okay, let's brainstorm. What's our idea for a race? Relay. Big prize money. Couples.
Yeah.
Like I want it to be a fly in the room when that meeting happened where they're like, this is it. This is what's gonna take the sport mainstream.
Mm.
This is what it is. This is the thing that's gonna finally break through to the masses and go, yeah, you know what? Triathlon is maybe it's like those reality shows like Married at First Sight are starting to come over to triathlon. But honestly, the fact that it's $10, I'm not interested in that.
No.
I look at the start list. I don't know half the names on the start list, to be honest. Some of the teams in there, I just know are going to get absolutely destroyed. Not because they're not good athletes, but like when you put Richard Murray and Rachel Clammer up against Marinda Carfrae and Tim O'Donnell, both who are very good Ironman athletes compared to extremely good short course athletes at an extremely short distance triathlon, I think I know how it's going to go.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, look, I'm happy. I'm happy you're all in couples, and I'm happy you're happy, and all that. But I don't give a shit. I don't want to see it.
yeah, like I said, I like the idea of it. I would love to see more of these relay races happening that aren't based on country. So I honestly, have this concept, but pick teams.
Yeah.
So you might have Kristian and Gustav, or Kristian and Daniel Becker or Joe Skipper and Magnus Ditlev. Like, I don't know what the pairings are.
Yeah, or even
that to
make
me,
it a male and female pairing if you want.
that would get me excited.
And then,
like, can you imagine Kristian Blummenfelt and Flora Duffy on a team together? Like, fuck, man, that to me is an idea that gets me excited.
Yeah. To make it a one-off event a year where you can team up with one of your mates in triathlon, and then come up and see. And it can be anybody. It's not a national thing. It's anybody across the board. And that would be cool. I'd pay for that, but take the romance out of it.
I love the thought that they do like pre-race dinners at Ironman events. At this one, it's like super romantic candlelit dinners, and they've got like a person playing a violin for each couple, and they're having their super romantic dinner for each couple and stuff like that. Oh man, it's a weird thing to me. Again, not for me. That doesn't mean it's not for somebody else. If you're into this,
oh yeah,
awesome.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, if you're going to enjoy it, have at it. I'm not going to disparage anybody for enjoying it. I'm giving my personal no-ness to it.
That's what we do, mate. That's what we do on this podcast. James, what's next?
Welcome to the down low on the PTO. There hasn't been a huge amount of news this week, has there, mate, on the PTO front?
Nothing is going on the PTO.
What's the down low on the PTO? Come on, PTO, do something. So what they did put out on their social media was a question around bold athlete predictions this year. Now, have you got any? We thought we'd answer this. As two individuals who pay a lot of attention to triathlon. What are your bold athlete predictions for this year, Mr. Ford?
So it's not necessarily that we don't have to agree with them or believe them, but what we think are bold predictions. Is that how you want to interpret this?
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, I don't think they have to be our personal bold predictions. It's either way, really. I mean, if you've got something in your head that's burning a hole that you need to get out, that you think, I don't know, Daniela Reef is going to step down to short course and take the Commonwealth Games. Not that she's in the Commonwealth, but you know.
Lucy Charles steps down and wins the Commonwealth Games. It's a pretty bold prediction, James Bell. There you go, mate.
There you go.
Yeah, I saw it, and it was interesting. One of the things I saw on this post was that a lot of the bold predictions I thought weren't very bold. It's like, the Norwegians are going to win everything. I'm like,
yeah, that's not a bold prediction.
Frodeno's going to win St. George. Like, I'm not seeing anything here. I think the ones that I liked, and I don't think they're bold, but I like that people are thinking this way, is that Kat Matthews is going to podium in St. George and Joe Skipper's going to podium in St. George. I don't think that's bold, but that's because I'm Team Kat and Team Joe, but I would not be surprised if that happens. Bold predictions. Ashley Gentle wins 70.3 Worlds. That's a bold prediction.
That is a bold prediction, but one that is not beyond the realms of possibility.
There you go. I believe Ashley Gentle is going to win 70.3 Worlds. That's my bold prediction.
Okay.
That's a good one, I think, actually. I'm happy with that.
Okay. Then I will take something you mentioned a minute ago a little bit further.
Okay.
I believe Joe Skipper is going to win Utah.
St. George. I think it's... I would not... I wouldn't be surprised at all, to be honest.
Yeah.
I fucking hope he does. It'd be great.
Yeah.
It'd be absolutely great.
Wouldn't be a bad thing, would it?
Any short... Tyler Mislachuk wins WTCS.
Tyler Mislachuk wins the Commonwealth Gold.
Again, bold, but I definitely think is absolutely in the realm of possibility.
Yeah. And your comment about Lucy Charles, here's a bold prediction. Lucy Charles takes part in the Commonwealth Games.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. They've already announced the team, though, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. But you know, there's always room, isn't there? There's always wiggle room on these things. Someone could be injured. If there's an injury,
bold prediction: Lucy Charles forgoes Kona to focus on WTCS after sub 8.
Yeah, maybe wins in St. George and says,
that'll do for
I've got my world championship this year, and I'm going to fully shift onto Paris. Then I'll be back. I'll be back for long course, and I'll be back for Kona.
Daniela Reef wins St. George and Kona. Again, I don't think that's bold. I think it's like, yeah, okay, that could happen.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't have been bold a few years ago, but you know, the times we live in now, where she's been silent for so long, it feels bolder than it was.
What about a non-Norwegian and non-former winner wins Kona?
Yeah, so who could that be?
Daniel?
Backgard? Sanders?
Yeah. Man, honestly, I'll be honest. How good would it be if Lionel Sanders won a world championship this year?
Yeah, I'd be up for it.
Like, how good would that be?
I'd be up for it.
I love the fact... I was thinking about this yesterday. I was like, we haven't spoken about Lionel for weeks.
No.
Months, maybe. And I think that's a good thing, mate.
Didn't we used to do the weekly Lionel?
No. It was always in the news because there are always things popping up. But the thing is, there's not, because he's just doing the work, mate.
Yeah, he is.
And I love that.
Has he even done much social media recently? I haven't really seen him.
I don't know.
I haven't really
He's got his Discord. He's got his Discord going.
I don't know what Discord is, but I haven't seen him on YouTube.
He does his YouTube videos.
Does he do his YouTube videos? Let me have a look.
I haven't watched one recently, to be honest. I've sort of gone off triathlon YouTube for a bit. I've been watching Joe's, and that's about the extent of my capacity.
I reached the point where I can't sit and watch anymore.
It says, we hope you've been sitting and watching us for the last 1 hour.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? I'm just, we're in the world so much, and I take on so much, and I have to watch so much that when I get that moment where I'm like, what shall I watch? Because I've got a moment to myself. My brain currently does not go to find triathlon content because it's just stuff I already know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, if you want more triathlon content, whether that is video, audio, or whatever it is, head to mxendurance.com/podcast, where you can sign up for one of our MX Endurance podcast memberships for as little as $3.40 a month. It gets you a bonus monthly episode we record every month with Chris McCormack. It gives you access to our suite of partner discounts. So many of them to discuss, including Blue 70, Mortan, others that I can't remember right now. You get access to our community. You get to buy MX Endurance merchandise. You get to meet up. You get to do all the good stuff. You support the podcast. Gets us to things like St. George. James, I'm trying to go quickly because despite my best efforts, the sun is still following me.
You a vampire.
Head to mxendurance.com/podcast. Sign up. Get on board. We love it. We love seeing new people come in and get involved with the community. It's good. It's good. It's good. James, if they want other things, what do they need to do?
If you want to find out more about MX Endurance, head to mxendurance.com or search MX Endurance on Facebook or at MX Endurance on Twitter or Instagram. If you want to follow me, I'm at bale.james85 on Instagram, or you can follow Tim at tford14 on Instagram. Jump onto iTunes, give the show a review. You can do it in the podcast app, which is super easy. If you like what we're doing, tell a friend, help us grow. If you've got any suggestions, comments, or criticisms, send an email to podcast@mxendurance.com.
You nailed it, James Bale. Guys, we've got some hot coals in the fire at the moment for some guests coming up. We've confirmed that a Olympic champion is coming on the podcast. We just don't know when yet. We may have a multiple world champion coming on the podcast in a few weeks, and then we're also striving to keep getting those couples. Maybe we should be careful about having the pairs of guests, because we've been so critical of the couples championship. Or maybe we should just start interviewing those couples from the couples championship.
Nope.
And have them on the show, James.
I ain't doing it.
No?
I ain't doing it. You can do it.
Well, I did have Reese and Lucy on together. So, and I did have Mikkel and Gustav on together.
Yeah, it's all... Okie dokie.
Jimbo.
Cheerio.
I'll talk to you. I'll be back in Australia next week. So until then, guys, have a good week.
Cheers.
Hope everybody's safe. Stay safe. Everyone's okay. Talk to you later.